Alright, hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to talk a bit about Overwatch in 2022. Now, I made a video most recently kind of doing an update video about like the channel and stuff and me going into 2022, the stuff I'll be talking about. But today I kind of want to talk about what I think we will see from Overwatch 2 this year, and more importantly, the things that I hope we get this year. Things that I think are important that we learn at least something about. And my thoughts in general about kind of some of the general discussion around some of the topics we want. It all makes sense as I kind of go through the video. So there obviously is still a lot up in the air about Overwatch 2 this year. We don't know when the game is coming out yet officially. The rumors are that it's coming out in 2023 at the earliest. We know the game was pushed back, and we know that the game was planned to launch in 2022. But we don't know when in 2022 it would have launched, so the game was pushed back. It could mean that the game was pushed back from an earlier launch window to a late launch window. It could mean that the game was pushed from a 2022 launch to a 2023 launch. We're not quite sure because it hasn't been fully stated. We don't know. Blizzard is never one to really give you release dates until they are absolutely ready for them to exist. So we don't really know when they are going to actually release any information, and we don't know when the game is going to come out officially, so we just kind of have to wait and see what happens at this point in time. But we do know, obviously, things about the game. We've seen information about the game. Obviously, we've seen a lot of the multiplayer stuff in the past year. We saw a lot more of the story side of things back in 2019 and back in the BlizzCon Online that happened at the beginning of last year. There was a much heavier focus on story content and single-player content. And ever since then, we've just got multiplayer content. Obviously, we got the move from 6v6 to 5v5. We got some look at maps and some of the hero changes and stuff like that. But we don't really get a lot of look at like the new content. Sorry about that noise. That's my chair. We still haven't really gotten a good look at any of the new content. We only know of one hero for sure, which is Sojourn. We have a pretty likely tease for a second hero, which is Asa or Asa. I believe it's supposed to be Asa, from that Kanazaka short story, which I will plug all the time. It is my pinned tweet on Twitter at ndcquinn_OW if you want to follow that. Give it a follow. It's my pinned tweet where I talk about it. But it is a good old tweet I got on there. So that's something I think is obviously possible. There's like 6 heroes I think that have been in some way teased, in kind of varying levels of development, obviously. So I don't know for sure what we're getting in terms of new heroes. We know new maps, which I think is really interesting, because I think maps are less interesting than new heroes are usually in people's minds. But I feel like with the way that Overwatch 2 is ditching the assault game mode, they kind of have to show us maps as a result to kind of show us like, oh, here's push, here's a new mode. This is the mode that you are getting. So like understand that like this is what you have replacing the mode you already have. So going into Overwatch 2 with seemingly a lot of kind of questions about what we're going to have and what is going to go on, I'm going to start just kind of going off my kind of rough 2022 timeline for what I think we will be getting this year and what I hope we get this year and the types of announcements that I hope we get this year. Now, normally we would have a BlizzCon event either at the end of a year like we did in 2019 and 2018 and so on. Or because of COVID, we had BlizzCon Online at the beginning of 2021. They already canceled BlizzCon Online for 2022 amid the scandals and issues going on at Activision Blizzard. So there is no BlizzCon Online for this year, which I think is understandable because I think that at the end of the day, it wouldn't do them any good to have it. And it's smarter for them just to do individual announcements and stuff like that. For each individual game, the individual teams can kind of decide when they want to make those announcements themselves. So I think when you keep in mind the fact that the Overwatch League season kicks off in April, we don't have an exact date yet, but we have a kind of presumed date based on some information, which is April 22nd, which is Friday. Could be before that, but that's kind of the date that people are working with because of a Hastro tweet from a few months ago now. So if April 22nd is the working date, the date I'm basing the start of the season on, you have to imagine that at some point between now and March, most likely, we could, I guess, wait until all the way till April, but I don't think it's likely. Sometime between now and April, beginning of April, end of March, we will get some kind of announcement or some kind of news update, whatever, about Overwatch 2. And I think we'll get more of a look at the game, and we'll get a better idea of what we can expect to see when the Overwatch League players have access to the game, right? Because there comes a point where once the Overwatch League season kicks off, obviously, we as viewers will be watching Overwatch 2 be the game that's being played. And I think that one of the things, if you're the Overwatch League, you need to do is you need to build up hype for the Overwatch League season. And if you're the Overwatch team, you want to build up hype for Overwatch as a game, as a marketing tool with the Overwatch League. So I think you have to open up in some way a presentation before the season starts where you show off the game and the version of the build, at least up until that, as much as you can, the build that the pros will be playing on for the Overwatch League season. Because a lot of the pros are streamers and you want their thoughts on it and you want them to be able to play on stream, I think, before the season begins. I think we're going to see another preseason type of thing like we saw in the past couple of seasons where they want to just have us get Overwatch 2 gameplay as much as possible. And I think one of the ways they're going to do that is doing, preseason scrims where teams are doing, or not scrims, show matches where they have the teams playing matches on this Overwatch 2 beta build against each other, one team versus another team, just to keep interest high and just to kind of build up hype for the season, and just to make people kind of interested in seeing what the game looks like. So that is something I 100% expect to see happen. I definitely think we will get videos and streams and information before the Overwatch League season kicks off, where we kind of see what there is to work with from the pros and for the game. In terms of what I think we will see when that Overwatch League season kicks off and when we get our first build of the game for the pros, I don't think any of the new heroes will be in the game. I think there will be new maps in the game. I don't think there will be new heroes in the game. And the main reason why I think there will be new maps is because I don't really see a world in which you can get away with doing the Overwatch League and only having 3 map types playable. What we might see is Push being made the first map of the series, because there's, we only know about 2 Push maps right now, and it's Rome and Toronto. So I'd say there's a chance, not necessarily a high chance, but a chance that what we end up seeing is Toronto being treated as, or the Push maps being treated as like the opening map of the series, or as the tiebreaker map for the series. But for that to happen, you need another map type in there as well to get you to that point. Which I suppose, you could have it be like start on Control, play an escort map, hybrid map, escort map, that. But you kind of have to have Push playable, because if Assault's not in the game, you only have 4 maps, only 4 map types. So it could be instead of doing it in that order, well, it could be you start on control, or you start on push, then you play assault, or not assault, escort, hybrid, control, and then if it's tied, you go play hybrid, or you play push again. Who knows? That's just, at that point in time, it's just useless speculation. I'm hoping we see push, and I'm hoping we see a bunch of the new maps. I don't think we need to see all of the new maps. And I think one of the interesting things to do, if you're having a beta build, is even if you don't have a bunch of new maps in the game, or there in the first tournament cycle, if each new tournament cycle start adding new maps in, just so you give the pros at least time to scrim on them and get to know them before they are playing them on for matches. So maybe, in the first tournament there's no new maps except for the push maps, because you have to have the push modes. Maybe they have 2 to 4 push maps in the rotation for the beginning of the first stage, but maybe we don't see maps like New York or Monte Carlo or the other new maps, and then maybe the next tournament cycle comes out and they add 1 new map from each of the map types that we haven't seen yet, right? So they add New York as a hybrid map, and they add Monte Carlo as an escort map. And we haven't seen any new control maps, so we can't really make any guesses on what control maps we might be getting. So those are the types of things that I kind of hope we see, or I think we might see when it comes to just like the Overwatch League, and how the Overwatch League approaches Overwatch 2 and how they approach kind of the rollout of it. I think we definitely need to get some kind of major Overwatch and Overwatch League effort together of making sure that they use the league as a way to not only kind of promote the game, but also make the pro players an important part of how the game grows and evolves before launch. Because I would think, right, I would think that even if the game has a 2023 release, I would think there is some kind of playable beta in store for 2022. It might be late in 2022, it might be early in 2022, depending on what the release window is for the game. But even if you think about like Valorant, right? Like Valorant's beta happened in, April of 2020, and the game officially launched in June, right? So, that just kind of gives you the idea, the beta began April 7th, 2020, and the full release of the game was June 2nd. But you could play Valorant in this beta building up to that. And so even if you think about the fact that the game could have a 2023 release window, we could be seeing a beta for even longer than the Valorant one. We could be seeing a shorter beta, who knows? We could be seeing a short, early kind of beta. Maybe it's a first wave of a beta. Maybe we get a closed beta, and then we get an open beta later. Maybe we just get like an alpha build. Who knows, right? The problem is, and the reason why this video is so difficult, is because we don't know enough information about the game right now to make these kind of educated guesses about what they are going to do about Overwatch 2 this year specifically. Other than the Overwatch League season going to be played on it, and that's really all we know. Now, what I will say, and I do want to point this out, there's been a bunch of stuff that's kind of been teasing up some of these little bits and pieces of information. We've been seeing stuff on Overwatch League social media accounts about like how things are changing and what they're doing to make things kind of build up some hype for the season. And when you think back to the 2021 season, it was in January when we got the news and the announcements about where the teams would be playing. We kind of got our first big season breakdown, our first big look at what the season would be in terms of its format. That happened last January. So we'll hopefully get some news from the Overwatch League this month about what the team is doing, the Overwatch League team specifically, what they have been doing to make the League run for 2022 and for the Overwatch 2 game. Because, I am under the impression from what we've seen that the pros still don't have access to Overwatch 2. Maybe that's not true. Maybe they have since gotten access to Overwatch 2. But to my knowledge, they do not have access to the game yet. The teams are not scrimming on Overwatch 2. They're scrimming on Overwatch 1 and doing what they can there with Overwatch 1. But we obviously don't know for sure what everyone is able to do. So I think this is going to be an interesting year. It's going to be interesting to follow what happens. I'm very curious to see what the first thing we get is and when we get it. Like I said, I hope it's in the next, between now and the end of March is when I would hope we get something pretty substantive. We haven't gotten anything at all from the dev team in regards to Overwatch 2. I mean, we're at the dev AMA. We haven't gotten like a really solid look at stuff since the Overwatch League Grand Finals, when we got looks at some of the new hero redesigns and stuff like that. So it's been a while since we've gotten any information. It's been 4 months or so now, 3 months, and depending on how long it takes them to get it out, it could be even longer. It could end up being 5 months or almost the full 6 months, depending on how long it takes them to give us the information that we so desperately want. So I'm cautiously optimistic about this year. Of course, the creators, obviously they had a bunch of creators tweeting stuff out, and that's one of the things that I'm really interested in trying to figure out what it is that they saw. My guess is they got a sneak peek at what exactly the first major announcement of this year is going to be. I think they got a detailed kind of look at that. And part of the reason why I think it's very possible and possibly even very likely that we get some kind of beta or alpha this year is because if you think about what Valorant did, they had a very private, closed alpha, I think right before they announced the beta, where they brought in a bunch of creators, a bunch of personalities, and they brought them in to, or they gave them access to the game in this alpha build from their own PCs, and they let them play the game. And then when they announced that they had it, then everyone was allowed to talk about it. I think that the Overwatch team may do something similar with creators this year, which is part of why they're excited, because they're getting the ability to make content about the game exclusively, in a sense. They're getting to make content by getting access to the game early, which is a good way to kind of bridge the community and the devs, is by saying, hey, here are content creators, we're giving them direct access to play the game and talk to devs and talk to people who are making the game at the same time, so that they get to basically show off the game and not just show it off themselves, but show it off with the help of developers and people who worked on the games. That was one of the things that they would do at the BlizzCon live streaming setups, is when creators would stream, Blizzard devs would come onto the stream and talk to them, and Jeff would talk to people, he would get on people's streams, Jeff Goodman would get on people's streams, I'm sure Aaron Keller would do the same thing. So it'll be interesting to see what the creator economy and what the creator side of the Overwatch community will be with Overwatch 2, right? How much impact will creators have on the growth of Overwatch 2, and how much impact will they have specifically on the early days of Overwatch 2, when they really get into the marketing push, and they really get into the this is the game we're making push, this is the game, this is when it's coming out push. Because if the game is launching in the next 18 months, which I think is kind of the safe estimate right now, think about the overall time. The next 18 months would be by next June, right? June of 2023. I think we can expect, or we are at least expecting and crossing our fingers, that is when we get the game, is at some point between now and June of next year, right? So I'm giving a window of now and then the first 6 months of 2023. I hope that we have the game within the next 18 months. And if we do, it is going to be important to start doing the ramp up to the marketing and ramping up to getting people prepared for the game. Because you can do a short-term marketing strategy when you've already announced the game and people know the game is coming. And so you can, like, in less than a year of the game's release, start saying, like, and here's the date it comes out, and we're marketing it, and this is what you need to get excited for, haha. You know, especially if it's a game that people already know about the name of the game. But I think that if you consider where we've been with Overwatch for so long, you have to be really getting people excited, because the game has become so stale because it's just super slow in terms of its changing and adding new content. We don't really get anything. So I want to see the team at Team 4 give us some really good stuff this year, even if the game doesn't come out until the end of that 18-month window that I am hoping for. Give us some big things this year relating to potential betas. You know, they've obviously talked about the fact that we'll probably get one in the future. They just don't know when yet. And let us know, like, when we see the Overwatch League, even if we don't have access to the game necessarily, at least give us more information about the game. And I hope we get regular dev appearances on Overwatch League streams where they will talk about the game and they will talk about the development process, and they'll talk about, like, how the game that we're seeing on the stream is changing, or where they can say, like, this is the type of thing that we have made a change for going forward. And there's always possibilities for stuff like that to happen. With the way that the league is kind of changing, and they're, you know, someone like John Spector moving up to be a part of the Overwatch team. Now he is still going to have those same connections to the Overwatch League, and so that kind of builds stronger bridges and connections between the Overwatch team and the Overwatch League team that could hopefully give us more ability to see stuff like that, where we see devs getting on and kind of talking about the game and the Overwatch League, when it's usually just been them talking about the Overwatch League in the past. I have a lot of thoughts, obviously, on Overwatch 2. It's really difficult to kind of speculate when the game isn't really out and we know so little about it. So, it's about time we just kind of wait and see what happens. Hopefully, it's not too long before we get some type of announcement, but at this point, we will just have to wait and see what happens. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments down below, your thoughts on everything going on with Overwatch 2, what you think about when we might get news, what types of things you hope we see, the types of things you think we'll see, anything like that, any kind of topics that I talked about. Let me know, and I will hopefully have a video in the not too distant future where we once again talk about the Overwatch 2. But for now, that's all for me. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy. And until next time, bye bye.